Okay, so let me show you my sales system 2.0. And this is the 8-piece project plan that I take all of my sales system black belt clients through. And we use it to help them to make more money, get more profit, get more time, freedom, and ultimately get more meaning out of their business. So this sales system 2.0 is going to show you firstly how you're going to get more customers and how you're going to keep them for longer. So what do we do to attract more customers to your business? And once we've attracted them, how do we qualify them for fit? So we want to make sure our salespeople are only investing time with qualified prospects and not wasting time on tire kickers. Then we want to talk about how do we convert these qualified prospects into customers without discounting. And then finally, how do you retain them and how do you grow them? So let's get into it. Let's talk about attraction. Okay, so the very first project you want to get involved in terms of attraction is to fill the funnel. So when we look at most industrial products and services businesses, what we see is a distinct lack of lead flow. Their pipelines are just either filled with rubbish or they're limping along, they leak, they're rusty. There's just a trickle of leads coming through. It's just nothing that you can rely on, that your sales team can rely on. You've probably got a whole lot of what we used to back in the day, in the insurance selling day, call China eggs, where the eggs never likely to hatch. You've probably got a number of those in there. But really, when you think about it, the stress that comes from having a pipeline that is limping along, that is just, there's no security. When you get funnel right, everything changes. All of a sudden, you've got reliability, you've got a pipeline, you've got a funnel that you can rely on. You don't want to worry about your pipeline anymore. You want a flood of leads. You want to get your lead flow to where you get a regular stream of new sales, new leads, new blood. And that gives you the relief knowing that you've got a funnel, you've got a pipeline that is meaningful. And that gives you a sense of security that you're going to get regular sales, regular delivery. So the question is right now, is your funnel, is your pipeline more like a trickle or more like a flood? So your first project is to fill the funnel, fill that pipeline. So now let's talk about the other piece of the attraction puzzle, which is the automation and the outsourcing. So let's think about it. When you think about everything that has to happen for you to attract leads and then get in touch with them and qualify them and then have your people convert them and keep them, that all takes up a tremendous amount of effort and time and energy. And as a result, it's really easy to drop the ball. Stuff falls through the cracks. We just don't follow up. Something can happen, and you're just not as consistent as you really need to be. So if you don't have automation or you haven't outsourced, then your sales operation, besides being expensive and dropping the ball and missing out on opportunities, it becomes friction where you're grinding it out. I mean, think about it. How much friction is going on in your business, in your sales operation right now? I mean, so many moving parts that your people are responsible for. This is where automation and outsourcing comes in, because you don't want friction, you want flow. You want an operating system where you've got your best salespeople delivering value and the system is keeping everything running smoothly. That's what you're looking for. So project number 2 is automate or outsource, but get that system running smoothly, because if you don't, you're paying too much. Now your third project is what we call qualifying for fit. So if you think about it, the amount of time and effort and energy, and not to mention money, is wasted chasing down leads or prospects that are never going to eventuate. It's far too costly a practice. So you want a system that streamlines your BANT process. So BANT being, do they have the budget? Do they have the authority? Do they have a need? And what is their timing? You want a system that pulls all that information together so that we stop wasting time. Instead of having your salespeople waste their time on worthless prospects, you want worthy prospects. You want only your best salespeople working on worthy opportunities. So project number 3 is go from waste when it comes to qualifying to worthy. So here's the question. How much time, how much money, how much effort and energy are your people currently wasting chasing down unworthy opportunities? Right, so if you look at the last 3 projects, in the vast majority of cases, they're either outsourced or they're automated. And this gives you leverage, this gives you scale. Now, this project, project number 4, the strategic value discussion, is really the first time we've moved off of nurturing and we're now moving into real hardcore selling. So if you've gone through projects 1, 2, and 3 effectively, by now you should be fortunate enough to be only left with top salespeople. In other words, you've transitioned all the others either out of your business by outsourcing their roles, or you've changed their roles. Now, if you're still lucky enough to have some good top quality people with you, then you may not see this project as that relevant. However, that said, if you are ever to scale your business and not ever be hijacked or solely reliant on a few good salespeople, then you really need to drive this project number 4. The strategic value discussion is the piece that gets you the home run. This is the piece that will put you in front of your competitors. This is the piece that will ramp up your conversion rates. Because for most organizations, this is the piece that they rely on rainmakers for. And as we said earlier, there are not that many of them. So if you get this right, where you can have normal, regular, everyday, hard-working salespeople go out and do it, it puts you way ahead of the pack. Okay, so right now I want you to think about an initial discussion, whether it's on the phone or whether it's in person. Think about that initial discussion that your people are having with the customer. How many of those initial discussions convert into the next phase? Because keep in mind, we've already qualified them, so we already know the band. We already know they have the budget. We know we're talking to the person with authority. They have a need, and this fits within good timing. We already know that. So then how come so many of these initial discussions never end up moving to the next phase? How come these discussions end up as maybes where you want them to be compelled? You want these discussions to move from, I've got other priorities, or, that would be nice to have. You want them to end up with, how soon can you get back to me? I need this. I want this. I'm compelled to move things forward. That's the place, that's the position you want to be in. You see, a strategic discussion needs to be a conversation where the questions that your salespeople ask and the small sound bites that they share are so value-packed that you want your prospect to be almost salivating for the next visit or for the demo. This conversation, the strategic value discussion, is your movie trailer. This is where you leave them wanting more, not wanting to get rid of you. You want these initial value discussions to go from maybe, you want them to go to compelling. And this is where you invest time in training, drilling, coaching. This is where you get ahead of your competition, because in this project, this is where you earn the right to meet with decision makers. This is where you earn the opportunity to engage in a strategic value-driven discussion. Here's where you understand your customer's business case or lack thereof. Here's where you earn the opportunity to engage with them and actually help them to build their business case. Answer me this. How many of your current initial discussions end up with your customer, your prospect, wanting to champion you through their organization, to coach you and guide you through the way their organization buys, because they want you, they want your product, they want your service. Remember, you're not interested in maybes. You want yes, please. So project number 4, invest heavily in improving the strategic value discussion, because when your salespeople are converting, now you're starting to make money. And folks, this is really the biggest problem that most salespeople have, because if you haven't had an effective strategic value conversation, then you can't go to the next phase, which is convert. You can't close sales. You can't effectively negotiate. So now let's talk about project number 5, which is negotiation. So we've gotten them engaged, they're keen, we've done the presentation, we've engaged them, they want us, everything is cooking along nicely, and now it's time for negotiation. So negotiation is very different from selling. And in fact, a lot of salespeople are still selling when they should be negotiating, or they're negotiating when they should be selling. Now, negotiation is that they want it, and they want it now, but the question is, how can they get it on the best terms? And so, while they want to discount, you want margin. So here is where your salespeople have to be able to clearly articulate your value in commercial dollar amount terms. This is where they really need to understand the commercial conversation. Here's where they need to understand the business case. Here's where you have to know when to play and when to walk. Here's where you have to position yourself. Your salespeople have to position themselves as the only real clear option for the prospect. Here's where you have to be able to articulate the risks and costs of not dealing with you. Here's where you have to be able to answer the question, why should I pay more? Where your prospective customer can really understand your point of difference, your value proposition. Why should I pay you the margin that you're asking for when I can get it from your competitor for less? If you can't answer that question, if you can't justify it, then you will not get the margin that you're looking for. I mean, think about it. You want to go from discounting to getting the order to achieving the best possible healthy margin for your work, for your products and for your services. You want a healthy profit. And this is project number 5. Like all other projects, you have to work on it. You have to understand exactly what all the nuances are, and you plan for them. So let me ask you this. When it comes to this area, how many times do you find yourself discounting and leaving healthy profit margin on the table purely because we haven't done everything else properly up until this point, because our salespeople don't understand the commercial dollar value of what it is you're offering? Hand on heart right now, how many of your salespeople can sit down and go toe-to-toe with a CFO or a CEO in terms of their ability to converse commercially? If they can't converse commercially, you're leaving margin on the table. Project number 6, well, that's an easy one, isn't it? It's about closing. It's about converting. It's about getting that yes rather than the no. It's about bringing home the bacon. You want sales. You want them to get the yes. Enough of the no's. You want more yeses. And so again, we've got to look at what is our process, what is our system, how do we go about asking for the order and bringing it home? What are the steps, what are the processes, and how prepared are we when we go in for that closing discussion to walk out with the order at a healthy margin? Remember, science before art. The idea here is you want to create a science of closing the sale. Now, once you've got the order, now we've got the customer, now we want to preserve them. And this is really the final phase of our process. So we don't want to go through the whole effort of acquiring and then converting not to keep them. You want to be able to keep and preserve the hard work that you've invested in thus far. And so, number 7 is we want to move from just being a regular supplier to a preferred supplier. And again, there are steps, there are processes that you can apply to move your key account forward from just standing in the queue of suppliers that knock on the door to standing in front of the queue as a preferred supplier. So project number 7 is what we call the keep. This is where we want to move from just being, as I said, just a regular supplier to becoming the preferred supplier. Why? Because, let's face it, regular suppliers, as just a regular supplier, you're always going to be hit on for discount. Sometimes you get the order, sometimes you don't. Whereas if you're a preferred supplier, you get the phone call, you get the in. And most of the time, you've set your prices for a full year or whatever it might be. And in that way, you're able to hold on to healthy margin. Now, the final piece of the puzzle is what we call the grow. This is where you want to take existing customers. You want to move from being just a friendly face in the organization. You want to move from that place to where you are a strategic partner. This is where you understand the business at a strategic level. This is where you can be on board with them so that you never miss out on an opportunity to make a sale and to grow your wallet with that organization. Because when you are a strategic partner, now we're in a symbiotic relationship with the client company. So that really is the 8-step production process model. So we want to acquire customers, you want to attract them, you've got to fill your funnel, you want to either automate or outsource, then you want to make sure you've qualified for fit, you want to make sure in your qualification you've used the band model, and you're having powerful strategic discussions. So much so that you are allowed to go to the conversion phase where you can negotiate and get and earn a healthy profit. You want to be able to close the business and become more than just a supplier. You want to become a preferred supplier. And as a preferred supplier, you don't want to just be a friendly face in the organization, having your people pop by, say hi. You want to grow that business. You want to become a strategic partner. That whole process, this whole piece, it's not a quick fix. It takes time. But if you will work, if you will find and apply the specific recipes that are available for everyone today and apply it to your business, work yourself through these 8 projects using proven strategies. And if you will work on each element, each piece of this 8-project model, you'll be able to turn your sales operation into a turnkey system. You will have a sales conversion system that you can literally press the button and out it goes. That's why we call it it's a cash producing machine. Because once you've got it down, it's something you can count on. You can forecast by it, you can predict by it, and as a result, you're able to ease back on your stress because you know what's coming and when it's coming in.